Well, hello everyone. Before we get into this video, I would encourage you to please look at this podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and other platforms. If you could rate this podcast on Apple Podcasts, that would help me immensely. Thank you so much, and please enjoy the show. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pensive Politics with Mr. Watson. I am your host, Christian Watson, and today I have with me someone who I have been a fan of for a very long time, someone who I admire for his courage and his willingness to be outspoken and his willingness to speak his mind, regardless of what certain people might say, Mr. Scott Baio. Mr. Baio was, I'm not sure if to call you Scott or Mr. Baio. I want to be respectful. So I'll just say Scott. Okay. So Scott is best known for starring in Happy Days and its spinoff Joni Loves Chachi and being Charles in Charge, which is a very wholesome sitcom in my opinion. I was first exposed to him. I was watching AME one night a few years ago, and I saw Perry Mason, The Case of the Fatal Fashion, and I was just flabbergasted because I've always been a Raymond Burr fan. I was flabbergasted by how good Scott's performance was, and so I'm very honored to have him here with me today. How are you doing, Scott?
Wow, I'm good. That's such a random credit that you would pull. But yeah, it was Raymond Burr was a good guy, nice man, very nice man actually.
Yeah, that was gonna be the first question I asked you. What was it like working with Raymond Burr? I mean, he was Perry Mason. He was the face of Perry Mason. What was that like? It must have been a surreal experience.
You know what, Christian? You go to work, and he was an intimidating guy because he's a big guy, but he was a gentleman, and he was a professional. He had a very wicked sense of humor, and he would goof off a lot, and he was a joy to be around. It was fun, easy, just easy.
Yeah, absolutely, and you get a sense of that from listening to him in a few interviews and seeing his larger than life personality. So I mean, yeah, and then look, I mean, I suppose it was random, but I mean that's just that performance, your performance there really. I also know I wanted to be a lawyer at one point in time, and so Perry Mason was like the model for me. So seeing that movie kind of helped, gin up that ambition. But
well, I don't know. You mean the originals? Or no, the ones from the '90s. Is that what you're talking about?
Right. The originals. I've also watched the originals of some of the originals, of course, but I prefer the TV movies.
Right. Yeah. Then we shot that in Denver, Colorado, and I actually did another series there called Diagnosis Murder with Dick Van Dyke for a couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
But it seemed that they were working out of that city a lot. But no, it was a great show. It was fun. It was tons of fun.
Absolutely. So I have to ask you this question, and I'm sure you get this question a lot, so I hope it's not redundant. But President Trump just left office, and of course Biden just got swept in, and I've seen a lot of scary things, right? I've seen a lot of people who are, not necessarily into the idea that America has a very good moral character. They're not necessarily into the idea that this is a great country. I've seen them push certain ideas, and they're emboldened by Biden's sort of ascension to power. And so they have used this as a means, basically using him as a means to push these bad ideas. But of course it manifests in different areas of the country and in different industries. So during the Trump era and now after Trump has left, what has the sense of Hollywood been in relation to you? How have people acted under Trump and in reaction to Trump, as opposed to how they acted under Bush or under Reagan? Because I understand there was antipathy towards Bush and Reagan, and there was typically antipathy in Hollywood towards many conservative presidents, with Kanye West saying that George Bush has flanked black people, that kind of nonsense back in 2004. But has it been different, or has it been sort of enhanced under President Trump?
Everything changed with Trump. Everything. Because before President Trump, and I still call him President Trump because I think it was stolen from him. But before President Trump, you were Republican, okay, and they were kind of liberals were kind of, why are you Republican? And it wasn't this vitriol and this hatred that there is now. I mean, they keep saying, they being the media, we need to be deprogrammed now, and we need to be put into camps. And I have thought this way. I have thought the way I think now my whole life. The only person that ever expressed my beliefs was Trump. George W. Bush was, he was a Republican, but he was a swamp guy, and he wasn't, lowered taxes, but he wasn't a real conservative. And I am a real conservative, and Trump was a real conservative. So to say that I need to be deprogrammed, so I guess you want to take me back 60 years and deprogram everything that I learned in my life from my parents, from my neighborhood, from the people that I knew, my friends. That's pretty much all I knew, and that's how I grew up, and that's the way the country was. And unfortunately, I don't know what the hell's happening in college, but it is not good. I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is dangerous. I think she causes more violence than anybody because of her rhetoric. And to say that, and the way they spin this, Christian, is disgusting. They have to put up barriers around the Capitol now because of the white supremacists and which are Republicans. And conservative people don't do that. We don't riot. We don't litter when we have a rally. That's not who we are. And they're trying to turn into people's minds that is who we are. And I'm tired of it. So I don't know what we're going to do. Because first of all, Joe Biden doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't really know what he's doing. I think somebody's telling him to go sign these 20 executive orders and come back and we'll give you some tea. And that's the way it works now. So to get back to your original question, it's just Trump changed the world. And I tell you the truth, Christian, I don't even know why they hate him. I don't know why. I try to think about it. Maybe because he exposed everybody. But I don't know. You would think people would want a honest government, but I guess not.
Yeah. And I've been trying to think over this and trying to understand, because I think one of the best ways to grasp the world, in my opinion, is to sometimes try to put yourself in the shoes of other people. I think that is probably one of the best ways to develop empathy, to develop understanding, as long as you maintain who you are, of course. When you go so far in someone else's shoes that you forget who you are, there's a problem, in my opinion. But so I try to do that, and I talk to people. I'm like, okay, why exactly do you dislike President Trump? Like, what exactly is the problem here? And, they literally pin every negative adjective in the book, in the English language, towards him. And whenever you mention anything he may have done that might have been good, they'll say, well, I mean, it all occurred under this idea that he was trying to, hate these kind of people and hate that kind of people. I think that is deflection. When Margaret Thatcher, the brilliant Margaret Thatcher, once said that when someone does not have a political argument left, they'll resort to insults. I'm paraphrasing, of course. But I think that is at the crux of it. A lot of people don't have political arguments anymore. All they have are insults and pettiness and anger and rage. And I think that the fact that American politics has become so moved and consumed by rage and hatred, kind of polarization, has been the driving force of the vitriol directed towards President Trump. So I just, and going off of this, I watched a video of yours on YouTube where you explain how a friend of yours was getting you in contact with the ABC people to possibly do a show where you would go over old songs and things of that sort. And the executive said, I don't want to work with Scott Trump Baio. And I'm like, I mean, you've not made a single argument about his skills. You've not made a single argument about his ability as an actor. You have made an argument about his political, affiliation, and that has nothing to do with the position he'd be occupying. So they quite literally allow politics to consume their life. That's another big thing. When people see their lives as connected to whatever happens in the government, to Capitol Hill, rather than connected to their own values, to their own motifs, to what they learned from their family, what their mother and father practice. When you make politics, you internalize politics, you make politics your life, everything that is different from how you see the world will become in your mind a threat. So I think that's what's been going on here. People are just internalizing politics. They're not letting principles remain principles, and they're not taking things in the context of how they operate in life. They're literally situating their entire life, off of politics. Barack Obama said before he left office that if you didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, I would take that as a personal insult. He said that to a bunch of black voters. Because again, he views politics as, he reduces life to politics. So I think that's really what's going on. It's disturbing. What would you say about all of that?
Well, Rush Limbaugh has a great, it's a line that I use a lot. Liberals are liberals first, above everything. Above God, if they believe in God, above country, almost above family. So they see everything through an ideological lens. And when you do that, no matter what you say to them, they take it as a political argument. If I say, boy, it's really dark out today, they'll say you're racist. Why? You said dark. That's insulting to black people. So every time you say anything, they attach it to some homophobic, xenophobic, racist title, and that's how they live every day. And because they live it every day, they win. Conservatives don't live it every day. We just live. We just want to live our lives, do the things we want to do. We don't see everything as political, but we're starting to, and I hope it's not too late. But what you said a few moments ago was right on. There's no argument anymore. There's no debate anymore with liberals. There's not. You say anything, oh, you're just a racist, or you're just anti-gay, and it has nothing to do with my argument. You just call me a name, and the news, and if you're a politician, the news picks it up, and Trump's a Nazi. Based on what? What are you basing it on? I have an opinion about minimum wage. Okay? And because I don't think the minimum wage should be $15 an hour, you think I'm a racist. Well, I don't think being a fry cook is a lifelong career. How about that? That's my argument. But nope, I'm a racist because minorities work according to them, and this is where they pigeonhole people, only minorities work in McDonald's. And that's a little insulting to minorities. And they just take everything and twist it. And because Republican politicians, Christian, the only people I blame for all this is the Republican Party. That's it. They never fight. They never get out. Like right now, Joe Biden has signed how many executive orders? 20?
Around 32, 33.
Oh, around 32. Okay, I missed a couple hours. And every time Trump signed an executive order, there were 15 lawsuits, people going to court, picketing outside. This guy does 30 executive orders. Not one Republican stands up for it. Not one.
Right.
Now, thankfully, some governors are standing up to the immigration policies that sleepy Joe Biden is signing, but nobody says boo, and I don't get it. They have the country on their side, which tells me that they don't want it, that they're liberal. My brother said to me, so, Scott, there's really only one party, and the Republicans are liberals. They really don't. There's a couple of guys there, Jim Jordan, Ted Cruz, a couple of guys that are hardcore conservatives that try to get out there, but that's about it. Matt Gaetz is one of the guys, and I don't want to leave anybody out. There's a handful of who? Rand Paul, guys like that, but they get squashed. Media won't play them. So the Republican Party, they're a waste of time. They are useless.
And I understand that. I mean, when I was younger, around 2012, 2011, 2013, I was beginning to become politically conscious, and so I was watching a lot of Fox at that time, and I would always see every night, Sean Hannity, he would be complaining that John Boehner was not really wanting to be a fiscal conservative, and John Boehner was pushing all these stopgap measures, and he was going on with the Obama tax and spend policies, and yet he had the nerve to turn around and say he's conservative. Paul Ryan himself, I think Paul Ryan was the kind of same kind of creature, Mitt Romney, the same kind of creature. So I think that, yes, Trump quite literally arose from the disaffection of so many people with the system, right? That's why there were even a lot of people on the left who voted for Trump back in 2016, because they were just so dissatisfied with, the sort of facades that politicians erect to get political power, and then they turn their back on people right afterwards, right? So politics has been motivated more by expediency and less by principle. I think that President Trump, for many people, represented a kind of politics motivated by principle and not giving a damn about expediency, because the kind of stuff he was saying, the kind of stuff he was doing it, and the way he was doing it was taking a claw hammer to the system, and it wasn't at all. For a regular candidate, wouldn't have been at all politically expedient, would have been politically disastrous. So I think that's really, you have the tension between expediency and being principled and being convicted. And that's why people like, Rand Paul get criticized, and Mike Lee, one of my favorites. Mike Lee's one of my favorites. They all get slammed and criticized because they're not, no matter what kind of president it is, no matter what party is in power, they're going to be beholden to principles above all. And that is really what our politics is lacking, in my opinion. Right? I think that political parties themselves are kind of the problem here, because political parties incentivize this kind of behavior. I think political parties incentivize being loyal to, if you're a politician, to whatever the House Majority Whip or the Senate Majority Leader or the Minority Leader says. They incentivize you listening to lobbyists over listening to the principles of the Constitution. They kind of incentivize this kind of stuff, which is why I'm sympathetic to a lot of third-party sentiments, although I think third parties themselves oftentimes fall into incompetence and they collapse on each other. There's a lot of infighting. So, for example, I'm a conservatarian. I'm a conservative, but I also have libertarian values as well. So I think, that many libertarians are making the point, hey, this system here is just not enabled for following convictions and principles. So would you think that a third party or that any other thing could come and rise up and possibly usurp this period of madness that we're going through, this period of, graft and corruption over adherence to the truth?
No. I think a third party kills any chance that we have of ever winning anything again, because it'll just split. Because the 80 million people that voted for Trump, some of them just voted because they're Republicans. Not every Republican is a real conservative. So I think it would hurt. I think we need to purge the Republican Party of all the rhinos. They all need to be primaried. All the guys that are just like Liz Cheney and was in Wyoming, she needs to be primaried out. Mitt Romney needs to be gotten rid of. We're in Utah right now, actually. And I campaigned for Romney, and he turned out to be he's not even a rhino. He's a liberal. But I think we need to get rid of these people that have been there 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Get rid of those people because all they're just part of the game. They don't care. They don't give a damn about us. They don't. They're all getting greased. They're all taken care of. They all have their cushy gymnasiums that they work out in. They have nice offices, and their families are taken care of, probably from China, by China. So a third party, we just got to get rid of these people, and have people that will actually speak. Christian, where's George W. Bush? Where's Jeb Bush on all the censoring going on in his country right now? Where are those guys?
Silent.
Haven't heard a peep out of them. Nothing. What is that? You think George Bush will come out and say, "Hey guys, this is too much. Stop. You can't say nothing." Jeb Bush, nothing. Paul Ryan, nothing. Which tells me this is what Paul Ryan's a punk, by the way. This tells me this is what they want. They don't want conservatives. You even hear Republican, advisors. Well, the Republican Party's gone too far. Too far. What does the Democrat Party become? I have not changed my beliefs in 40 years, and I'm a radical.
I admire this.
And you brought up that lady that Dawn Soleil from ABC. She wouldn't hire me because I'm a Trump guy. I am the same exact guy that I was then as I am now. So the Republicans, I'm talking to you, Christian. I'm making faces because I'm so frustrated. I'm so disheartened by them. And so third party is a loser, in my opinion.
Right. I understand that sentiment. And personally, I support people of all different ideological persuasions working together, on the right at least, working together with the Republican Party, because I think that's where you build up a bench. That's where you build up power. Right? I agree with you. There just has to be a litmus test, because unfortunately, there are too many people, again, who are motivated by anything but principles that are motivated, or if they have principles that don't necessarily align with their proper function of their office. I think Mitt Romney is a good example of this. I mean, Mitt Romney, we knew this from 2012 going backwards. This guy has been on every side of every issue. One moment he's pro-choice, next moment he's pro-life. A moment he's for some sort of gun control, next moment he's against gun control. I mean, he is kind of the worst kind of opportunist, in all honesty, and it's scary that the people of Utah, with mass assent, elected him into the senatorial office. I mean, he had houses in Massachusetts and in Utah. He literally just went across the country, came to Utah, and decided, okay, I'm going to be senator now. That's just disturbing to me. So I do think there's a certain liability upon all of us for putting these kind of people back into office. We have to be careful with what we do because, elections have severe consequences. And I think that the day Biden got into office and he began signing all this crazy stuff, he began trying to legislate by executive fiat as opposed to go through the proper enumerated course that the founders envisioned, that the Constitution is very clear about. I mean, and Chuck Schumer is saying, yeah, keep going, man. It's just, there are just mentalities, Scott, that are scary to me. And I don't know what the answer is. I just don't know what the answer is, but I have hope. I'm an optimist. But I do know one thing. I do know that politics and culture, so politics is reflective of culture. I know that much. I think broadly speaking. And so, back when you were doing Happy Days and you were doing Charles in Charge, do you think, if you measure the culture back then, at least the culture as related to entertainment and TV back then, do you think there was a semblance of sanity, a semblance of, people understanding the values that are necessary to live in a free society, to live in America, the values of honesty and respect? Because when I turn on TV today, I see, a few years ago, there was a show called My Baby Mama's, like all this kind of stuff, shows like Blackish, all this crazy, decadent stuff. I weigh that against Charles in Charge, which was, in my opinion, very wholesome. I went back, watched a few episodes, very wholesome. What has happened in the culture? I think the culture has shifted for the wrong. For the wrong.
For the past 30 or 40 years, the culture has been deteriorating because you take God out of school, you take religion out of people, you put government in the middle of families, government becomes God, God goes away. So you've got no consequences for anything. And this has been happening. These are all liberal ideals. Oh, you can't punish. Oh, they didn't mean it. Oh, I feel so bad. And they don't do anything about it. So everybody gets a trophy. Nobody can be valedictorian anymore. So you've got a constant erosion of what made America great. Individualism, fear of God, hard work, not relying on anybody, and liberals want you to rely on government. And they're so good at, Christians play long ball. Republicans don't know how to do it. They play long ball. And they just kept chipping away, take God out of school, it goes against the Constitution. Can't have God in school. All right. Now you start flooding the country with people who don't speak the language, with people who don't know our values. And what do you get? You get this. You get no consequences. You get no care for people. People are afraid of government, and people are afraid. I live in LA. I know you live in Georgia.
Yes, sir.
And LA is.
I feel bad. I feel bad for you.
Listen, I got to tell you, Southern California was one of maybe the most beautiful places in the country. And I'm from New York, and I've been all over the country. It was paradise. Oh no. You losing?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. It was a paradise, and I mean it. When I got there in the mid-'70s, and now my wife going to the bank in a very nice area. A guy exposed himself to her. There's homeless people sleeping outside of people's businesses. You have to step over them to get in. People defecating in the middle of the sidewalk in broad daylight, shooting up heroin in the broad daylight. You can see it. And and California is supposed to be the model. And I hope we recall this Governor Newsom. Recall Gavin2020.com if you want to help.
Absolutely.
And because people in that state, the citizens of that state, either don't know what's happening, or I don't know what at a certain point, when your safety is involved, you think you change your vote. It's the same thing when people go, what, I can't take it here anymore. I'm moving to Texas. And you go to Texas and you vote for the same people that turn the state you just left into to the state that you're in, to the state you just left. Either you're stupid or you're a liberal first, and maybe a little of both. So, years ago when I was working, it was a different time. People took responsibility, and that's the other thing. There is zero accountability and zero responsibility. Zero. And the reason there is because every politician, except for Republicans, they get away with it. James Comey got away with it. Brennan got away with it. Clinton got away with it. I could go down a list of everybody that got away with committing crimes. So, what do I care? I'll commit a crime. Nothing will happen to me. It's like you've got riots in Seattle and Portland, burning down buildings. Nothing to see here. It's okay. A couple of people who are probably Antifa go into the Capitol, and we got to get the surveillance cameras and the masks and find out who they are and face matching, and we're going to arrest them all. And it was all pre-planned, but the riots are fine. Those are totally fine. They're legitimate. Burning billions of dollars of property and destroying people's lives, that's okay. So what's the consequences? There aren't any. None. And this is what liberalism, everything liberalism touches, it destroys.
Do you think, because I remember once upon a time, the word liberal was associated with people. So like, for example, Thomas Jefferson has in historical parlance been called a liberal before, because Thomas Jefferson embraced the ideas of freedom and individualism. I think after FDR came in and after, the government became God, as you mentioned, and social welfare began flooding the system, Social Security was established, the word liberal kind of was tainted by progressives.
Right.
And so I typically say, progressivism is the issue, because liberalism in its initial form looks very much like many conservatives and many libertarians want. We want a government that is going to law, that is going to respect our reliance on our family, respect our values, not get in the way. So I just, it's just amazing how certain movements can completely flip a word and make it mean something completely different. Which is why, Yep, sorry, go on.
No, the left is very good at word games. The Affordable Care Act. It's not affordable.
Can't say illegal alien.
Can't say illegal alien. You have to call them undocumented, whatever. And this is how they do it. So they water down everything. They water it all down to where it has no meaning. Liberalism, progressive sounds like, yeah, man, I'd like to progress. Sure, everybody wants to progress. I want to progress down the road. I want to progress in my life. I want my life to be better, and I want, to achieve things. But that's not what it means to them. It means punishing and stifling. So this is the game that we're in. And again, the Republicans go right along with it. It's okay. Anyway.
Right. Absolutely. And it has to be. I mean, you're going to have a change in people who legitimately understand, the need for principles, legitimately understand the need for concepts and values that go beyond themselves and go beyond, their immediate surroundings. I think one of the biggest things about Christianity or God, whatever anyone calls it, I'm a Christian personally. I respect whatever anyone else believes, but for me, it's Jesus Christ. That's just me. That's just who I roll with. So, I mean, it's just amazing because religion, I think, kind of Christianity at least causes us to look beyond ourselves and look beyond, our interest immediately and look to something higher. I think the problem is a lot of politicians don't want to look to something higher. The only thing that they see higher is money or whatever in the world is influencing their decisions. So that's a big problem in my opinion. So I get a sense that we've had similar experience in what I'm about to talk about, because there have been times where, I came out as a libertarian conservative, and people who were my friends began realizing, oh, Christian, he's not really into this Black Lives Matter stuff. He's not really into this racial equity, air quotes, racial equity stuff. He's not really into this. He doesn't buy the systemic racism narrative. He doesn't necessarily buy all this stuff. He likes Thomas Sowell. He listens to people like that. He likes Larry Elder. Yeah, like he's like, well, what's going on with this guy? I have had folks go from 0 to 100. I have had folks who I could be laughing with and enjoying life with. One day, they find out what I believe, and it's like, oh no, oh, we can't talk to you anymore, and they keep me at an arm's length. I imagine you working in Hollywood. You know, I'm not sure how different Hollywood was in the 70s to how it is now. I'm sure it's very different. I just don't know. But I'm sure you working in Hollywood, you've had similar experiences. So if you've had similar experiences to that, how have you dealt with them? And have they had any impact on how you view yourself in relation to others? Or how have they just been, acceptable losses because you continue to still be yourself and you believe what you believe?
I lost a couple of friends. I don't know. I don't know why. Nothing was ever said. So I would put it to that, maybe some other stuff. But the last film I did, which will be out in February 9th, if I throw in a quick plug, Christian, called Courting Mom and Dad on DVD and Pureflix. Anyway, that was a faith-based movie, so it was a fairly friendly set. And I think that's why I don't hang out with show business people, really. I think one of my friends is in show business, he's a writer, but that's pretty much it. So I don't really see the day-to-day of what goes on. I talk to my friends. Some of my friends are crew guys, and they say nobody says a word. Nobody says anything. And I said, well, I guess that's a good thing. They can talk. No, nobody talks. You're not allowed to say anything anymore. But anything. You can't look at anybody. You can't say anything to anybody. And you can't talk about anybody. So it's just sad. It's just really sad. I don't agree with you. I got people, so I'm a big conservative. And I'm supposed to be anti-gay. I've got a ton of gay friends, right? And that's the old thing. No, I know black people. No, I know gay people. No, I know Chinese people. But I do. I've been in show business for 50 years. And you don't think I've worked with some gay people? So, it's just so absurd. It's just so absurd the way they look at things. I'll give you a perfect example. My wife just reminded me. I'll give you a perfect example of how it works. I did a show for 3 years called See Dad Run. It was on Nick at Night.
That was one of my favorite shows. When I watched Nickelodeon, that was one of my favorite shows.
Well, thank you. It was a family show. Right? It's a good family, wholesome family show now, and people come to me and say, thank you for doing that kind of show. Anyway, here's the way the minds work. So we had an episode where there was a fairy godmother comes for a birthday party. And they hired a woman who was black as a fairy godmother. It's fine. She couldn't act her way on or off the stage, right? I don't say that lightly. So I went to the people, the higher ups, and I said, look, can we do something here? Because it's supposed to be a big joke. It's laying flat. My face is out there, not yours. Can we replace this person? No. Why not? Well, we have to have a diverse person now. Why? Well, because we have to have a diverse person now. I said, okay. So let me get this straight. In this show, my best friend is black. My wife was Puerto Rican. My best friend's wife was black. My assistant was an Egyptian Muslim. And is that not diverse enough for you to hire somebody? And I don't care if they're black, purple, orange, or yellow, but as long as they're good. But they jam me always on diversity. And I said, is the cast not diverse enough for you? And they said, well, they don't look it. And I said, what? I said, so what would you have me do? Would you have Mark Curry, whom I love, come in dressed as somebody in the bush, and my friend Rami, my assistant, have a turban on his head, and my wife dressed in some Puerto Rican garb that's historically known for them to. I said, what are you talking about? They said, that's racist. That's insulting. He's black, he's Egyptian Muslim, and she's Puerto Rican. They don't look it. They are it. They are that. And I love them, and I love working with them. And they're great, talented people. That's how they see it. They don't look it. So you have to look a certain way. And I was so offended for my castmates that this was said about them that I didn't know what to do. So that's what you deal with. And it's true. And that's a true story. You know, and I wear a cross. I've worn this cross for 50 years almost. They kept every time I was about to go on camera, the wardrobe lady would come over and button my shirt up. I finally said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Well, they don't want to see the cross." I said, "You can tell them to go and F themselves. This is who I am. This is the character that I'm playing. I can't say God." So I kept jamming God in there. Oh my God, oh God, oh God. And they kept getting mad at me. I said, well, sorry. You're not going to change me, and you're not going to try to squelch every single thing that you see fit.
Absolutely.
And that's what's happening right now, Christian. That is exactly what's happening. You can say anything you want, anti-Christian. You can say anything you want, anti-Jew. But if you say pro-Christian, pro-Jew, no.
Yeah.
Sorry, I go off on rants here.
No, look, Scott, I'm very happy that I'm able to talk to you again. I've been a fan of yours for a long time, so I'm more than willing to hear your stories. They are fascinating to me. Absolutely. So I have a few more questions. I know we're running up on time very soon here, but I just like a few more questions I want to get in. So I've always wanted to know this, and this is like a sort of side thing. How much control does an actor, like who's in a starring role like you were, have over their script? Like, I had the idea that you just get a script and you read off of it and you memorize the lines and boom. Can you like insert things like, oh my God, and do things like that? Like with like, can you improvise sometimes?
Sure. Yeah, the star of a show has a certain amount of power. And if you're the executive producer star of a show, you've got more power. And if you've created the show, an executive producer show and the star, you've got tremendous power. But you can improve on a sitcom. On a sitcom, you can improvise all day long. But it has to. The writers have to accept it. The producers have to accept it. If it's funny, it's funny. They leave it in most of the time. But yeah, you have a lot of freedom to try things, to make stuff funnier. Yeah, you got all kinds of free, and every actor does, no matter what their title is. If they're just a hired actor, you get a script and you roll with it. You get to rehearse it, you get to play around with it, and sometimes you find funny stuff, and sometimes you don't. Sitcom is a different animal than most TV shows.
Fascinating. Okay, I always wondered that. And now you mentioned the issue of diversity, and this is something that I've come up against the same issue again. It's not, and really the reason it's an issue is because of how they like to phrase and then push this idea of diversity. And so in academia, where I am right now, I'm in college right now. I'm currently pushing back against the notion that my literature curriculum should be expanded to include more Black voices, women voices, et cetera, et cetera. Not because I don't want Black folks or women or gay folks to be included in the curriculum. I want their ideas to be good and their ideas to be sound. But the problem is with this sort of social justice mentality, which inverts the proper understanding of things and operates within a sort of subjective sense of how things are, rather than the truth of how things are, they can say, well, hold on, this is a Black person. They must have the lived experience of a Black person. Therefore, their voice is valuable just on the basis of that. And when you call them out for that, they'll try to backtrack and say, okay, hold on, no, here are their ideas. But I go back and say, okay, so their ideas are good. Why does it matter if they are a Black voice, a women voice, a gay voice? Why? I mean, there are plenty of Black folks who have brilliant ideas. I think I suggested, like, hey, let's put Thomas Sowell in the curriculum. He has some good books that can be studied in the literature class. Let's put Larry Elder in the curriculum. Let's put Clarence Thomas in the curriculum. Let's put these. But no. Well, why not? I mean, I think that they've been culturally influential. And there are some Black voices that are just crazy. There is this one lady who wrote a book called The ISIS Papers, which is about how he thinks that, the world is a system of white supremacy and how homosexuality was manufactured to depopulate African Americans, all this crazy wacko stuff. But I wouldn't let her in the curriculum, but she's a Black voice though. So my problem is they just reduce someone's credentials to something they could not choose: their skin color, their origin, their sexual orientation, their gender, or whatever. So I've come up against the same animal, and it makes no sense to me. It is racist, it is insulting, it is offensive, and I think that this is the mentality that we're being pushed into. Though it's like a sort of kind of reverse racism, sort of. And so President Trump tried to stop this, right? So he signed a executive order to get rid of the critical race theory training in federal programs and federally funded programs. Biden just reversed that, unfortunately. Biden just decided, okay, no, we need this kind of training. President Trump kind of took on this mentality in the federal government and then federally funded programs. He said, okay, no more critical race theory business, nothing like that. Let's make sure that we're not teaching things that can introduce someone to the idea of America. Biden just reversed those executive orders. He said, no, let's teach this diversity stuff. Let's teach this nonsense stuff. So it's coming from the top down. It's coming from the top down. And it is really disturbing. And seeing it bleed into corporate America, seeing it bleed into academia, where I'm at right now, seeing it, manifest in Hollywood, it's just, I don't know what the solution is, but I do know that it's a bad thing.
If the government would just leave us alone, it would be heaven, because I would hire the best person for the job. If you're a unicorn with purple wings and you're better than Christian Watson, well, then you're going to get the job. If Christian Watson is better than Thomas Sowell, then Christian Watson's going to get the job.
I couldn't dream of.
And that's but you know what I'm saying.
Of course. Yeah.
Whoever the best person is for the job, and it'll all work. It all shakes itself out. It's just so frustrating that we're not racist. I come from an Italian Brooklyn, from an Italian family in Brooklyn, where my neighbor was 99% Italian, 1% Irish. We didn't see Black people. I saw a Jewish guy when I was 13 years old, the first time I ever saw a Jewish person. I didn't know what that was. They had I don't know what these hair, for my friend is Orthodox. I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
I thought, who's this person? Was it from Mars or something? I grew up in that. So if anybody's going to be a racist, it would be me, and I'm not. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what your lifestyle is. I don't care what you do for recreation. I honestly don't care, as long as you're a good person and you obey the law. That's it. And leave your views to yourself. I'll leave my views to myself. And go live your life. That's it. That's all I want. Can't have it anymore. Can't have it. because obviously my political views are important to me being hired. Yeah, yeah. My wife says that, and we've been saying this for a long time. The difference between a conservative and a liberal is a liberal wants you to live their life. Conservative wants you to live your life.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to live anybody's life but mine. Some days I don't want my life, but some days, but I want to live my life. I want to be left alone. So, Christian, I think we're getting close to where we have to be. You got a couple of more questions, and we can wrap it up.
Right. Just so one more question, sir, and I really appreciate your time. Absolutely.
No, man, it's fun.
So I'm curious, as we talk about all of this and the diversity thing, I think diversity of thought is important. That's really important. I think diversity of thought that comes from diverse skill sets and everything. That's a diversity that I do pride. So I have a question for you. I personally see a lot of overlap between libertarianism and conservatism. I think both of them do have an understanding that America is foundationally, it is a good country. It has a good moral character, that liberty is important. Of course, there's some differences on how we handle certain things. My question is, what is your opinion of libertarianism? Because I get mixed answers sometimes when I talk to people.
Can I tell you the truth, Christian? I get confused by libertarian. I don't really know what the difference is. But I don't know tell me what a libertarian is.
A libertarian is basically someone who believes that individual freedom should be the primary basis of any government decision, and they believe that the individual themselves should be the primary consideration of any political decision. So that means that the individual should be considered, their rights should be considered if you're doing anything as it relates to government. That's basically what libertarian is.
Okay.
So you don't see much difference.
I'm for that. No, I agree 100%. I'm an individual. I want to be treated as one, and I want to survive as one. If I need help, I'll get help. Not from the government. Find somebody else. Government is there to protect me. Other than that, leave me alone. Give me a flat tax and leave me alone.
Brilliant. Absolutely. I agree.
The government doesn't owe me anything. I owe everything to my country. They don't owe me anything, and I don't want anything from them. Everything that I have, I worked for, because of the way the system was set up. And people want to tear it down. And when the system gets torn down, everybody's going to go, what happened? Well, why can't I work? Why can't I go to the store anymore? Why is there no meat? What's happening? This is what you people want. So I'm for free people, freedom. Leave me alone.
Absolutely. Well, I couldn't think of a better note to end the show on. So Scott, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it immensely. I hope you'll come back sometime in the future. Thank you. I appreciate your grace and I appreciate your kindness.
Christian, anytime you need me back on, I'm on.
Thank you so much, sir. And for all of you, right, please stay pensive, everyone. Bye-bye.